so let's kick it off. Wow, my battery's fully charged. How'd that happen? It's not actually, but that's a success I've had in a while. So we follow the sequence of play, but we got to follow the player turns first, and the Germans get to go first. We have some special rules for the Schlieffen plan, so let's find that if we can. Don't remember where they are. There we go. Only one unit for Hanover or Rhine can move to Prussia or Posen. So we could shift one unit over to face the Russians. That's probably a good idea. In the sense that I don't want the Russians to succeed over there. Only one newly built unit can be placed there during production. I definitely want to do that. The Germans can reroll up to 2 attacks against Belgium or any area in France. And if they control Belgium at the end of the first turn, they get an additional production point. So we definitely need to take Belgium. Okay. Well, the first thing we do is we get an event card. And this is the German event card, not the Central Allies. East Asia Squadron. Placed near the British Isles. During a Western Allied combat phase, you remove the squadron by spending 1 British fleet and a die roll of 3 or higher. And if the squadron is on the map, Britain loses points, potentially, on a die roll. Okay. Well, so that is what this counter does. And I'll just stick that there, and hopefully I'll remember it. It kind of affects the Brits, so I'll put it here. And let's see. Movement phase. All right. So here's where we have to do some figuring. 3 armies should be able to get into here. I am going to move my spent army into Posen. I'm only allowed to move 2 armies total. I think that's good enough. I hope. I don't know. You know, honestly, because the thing I do not want is I don't want Posen to fall. I don't think that's too likely, but I think just having 1 army there is asking for it. Okay. So that's what we'll do there. And none of the rest of this can be done. I could sail out with my fleet, but the Germans have some technological advantages, and then there's also the possibility the British will go hunting this. So I think I would prefer to strengthen my position a little bit before I set sail. So we'll hold off. No naval combat. Guerrilla combat. So this is the first question. Do I want to do real combat here? Or do I want, at +2, which I can't really recover from unless an event card comes up, or do I want to start off with guerrilla combat? I'm going to start with guerrilla combat. So we're going to look that up. See, they don't have the rules reference here. They do have it here. 2.19 is the general area. No, it's not. No, it's not. East Africa combat. Guerrilla attacks. So a 5 or a 6 is successful because I'm fresh and the army doesn't get spent. So I'll just roll a die. And I'm successful. I have picked on the British a little bit there. Cool. That's the only guerrilla combat. Now I get to do the ground combat. At this point, I'm going to attack into Belgium. And let's follow the normal combat sequence here, if I can find it. I got nothing really going for me. No, good lord. How many dice do I get? I got 1 die, with no modifiers. The defender gets 1 die with no modifiers, and we'll compare. They give me 4 different colored dice. I don't feel like that's necessary, but we'll see. Okay, the Allies won that battle, so I spend a German army, and I keep going. I could re-roll this. Yeah, why don't I re-roll this die? I get 2 re-rolls. There's not much worse that can happen than that, so we'll take a re-roll. How do I mark those? There's something that gives me a marker. The Strasstruppen, I believe, has one. There we go. So I've got a Strasstruppen, now I'm down to 1 reroll. And I try again. I win ties. So this time I'm knocked out, and we'll take a hit on the Belgians, I guess. We keep going. We win ties. I take a hit on a German. The Brits take a hit. They haven't been forced to retreat yet. I keep going. Oh, I have a big push marker. If I can find it. There it is. It gives me +1 going into there. So it was actually better than that. 5 versus 5. I win ties. I'm in. The Allies have to retreat. Well, I'm going to try the You Shall Not Pass, because all of the Germans have been fatigued. Okay, which means I'm going to try it with the Belgians. I roll a die, subtract 1 from the die roll for each permanently eliminated unit. Can I do it with a Belgian? Yeah, that's defending. Only French armies can choose this option. Yeah, this is the Belgian home area. I can attempt this, right? I don't know. No, it does not have a flag icon or a production area. Okay, well that's good. So Belgium has fallen, and we can send everybody in. The only danger to that is if the Rhine falls, Hanover's pretty easy to take, but then again, Bavaria is pretty easy to take too, and troops will probably be retreating. So we just took Belgium. That has some effects. Notably, we'll be getting an extra production point, but also Belgium has just surrendered, which I don't think has any real major effect on the game at this point. If I can find it, we just saw it recently. Conquered nations, all units are permanently removed except for 1. Yeah, I think that's all that happens. So now I could attack from the Rhine. I do not have enough oomph to keep going. Maybe I shouldn't have left so many units in the Rhine. Maybe I should have pulled another unit up to increase the Schlieffenplan success ratio. This unit. See, if I put 2 complete units in here, I would have 2 fresh units here. I could attack this once, twice, knock them out. I would not be able to get to Paris. I wish I had gotten in here. That would have been helpful. So you can't get a first turn Schlieffen victory, but you could actually mathematically get one in the winter turn, which is outside the timetable. But yeah, it's actually, it is possible to take Paris in that semi-initial assault, which, okay. Yeah, I think the game had a way that units didn't become spent sometimes in combat, in the version I played. I don't remember. I just remember that there was the argument made that you could actually do it. and we couldn't figure out a way to do it, but okay. So I think that's it for my Germans. I don't want to attack the Russians terribly much. That's just a way to hurt myself, which puts us down to production. Production modifiers, the blockade box. So I got to find the production table and see what the effects of that is. I'm not seeing it. Okay, I don't see it, so I'm gonna have to stop and look for that. This is the assumed state, so that works fine. So, resolve events, and there aren't any to resolve here. U-boat attrition. Okay. This is this table. You roll 2 dice for each fresh U-boat in the game. We only have 1 fresh U-boat in the game. I roll a 7, spent if convoys are active. Convoys aren't active, so I don't take any damage there. I do not worry about the spent one. That's already as hurt as possible. And any transferred production would happen. Okay, well, now I get a pile of points, and this is going to take me some time to figure out what I want to do with them. The points are listed possibly on here. Yeah, the base is 12, and we actually say where they are. I get a 13th point. Now, it's going to cost me to refit or raise units, building trenches, which I can't do yet, and transferring PPs. I'll come back with what I decide. 13 points is a lot. I can only build 1 unit here, but I could refit everything, so we've got 2 armies in each of these spaces. I feel like Prussia's a little more exposed. The Russians would have a hard time taking this. I could have sent some money to Austria, but I didn't. Instead, I built up the German army. Almost all in the Rhine. These guys all refitted. I built up the submarine capabilities, and that's really it. Can't build any trenches, so now I get research technology, which I believe just means I draw a card. Let me make sure, because it's not that clear. It's hard to find things in this rule book. I just read it. I know it's in this section, but nothing jumps out here. You think there'd be a research technology. That's the big thing, right? I think I just draw a fucking card. I get to draw 1 card. Okay, that's what I get. The special cards give me multiple draws. I get a poison gas, G1. DRM +1 from the area containing a land-supplied German army. Discard to the technology deck during production phase after researching technology. I would lose my G1. Let me see, is there a gas counter? I don't think there is. So basically, next turn, I have the opportunity to use this. I think this only works on Germans. There has to be a German army involved. So if I had Germans mixed in with the Austrians, I could use gas. But I'm going to get to use gas early in this game. And there's not any air superiority. There's not any heavy artillery. I don't get to build those things. So I'm done with the first player turn. I'm going to have to mark the players off here somehow so that I can take my breaks. But we're going to be on the Western Allies next. I guess I could just put all the dice up here with the Western Allies, and that would help remind me. So the Western Allies are next. Let's jump over to them. And they get their event card. And I got to be careful to draw the right stacks and all that. First line formations. Place on a Western Allied army, die roll modifier +2 for any combat. This will be removed at the end of 1915 if it's not used. Now, ideally, find this. This is a one-shot unit, one-shot bonus. That's the old Contemptibles. That's not what I want. Ideally, I would be using this over on, say, the Brits for the BEF to show their value. Maybe that's what the old Contemptibles is for. But I'm not making an attack with them. I'm going to put it on one of my French armies here because, well, I'm probably not going to be able to dislodge these Germans from Belgium. There's too many of them. They're too good. So yeah, we'll try our first line French units. And then I get to move. Now I only get to move 2 of my units. I'm probably safe moving the Parisians out of there. A little worried here in terms of being able to hold the Somme. However, it would suck to lose Verdun as well. So far, I've got kind of the advantage. I stopped the Germans pretty far. I'm going to put this here. That gives me 4 units. I'm probably going to get to rebuild a lot of stuff because, well, where's my production? My production comes to 11 total between Great Britain and France. Now, there are some issues, but it's close to the German production. And that accurately reflects just how powerful Germany was at the beginning of this war. If they'd waited a little longer, they may have been able to get even more of an edge. I'm not sure. Of course, the disadvantage that they had was they didn't have the access to the worldwide production that Britain and France did. Britain especially. Okay. So anyway, my dirty fingers. Let me try to figure out what I want to do. And to do that, I have to look at my pre-war, which is I have to make an attack at -1 into the Rhine. You know, if I only have to make 1 attack, maybe I should move a frontline unit into there. See if I can take Belgium, eh? Because I didn't get the red pants. Let's move another one in. Those would be my 2. All right, and we'll open up by using those frontline units against the Germans and see if we can retake Belgium because we didn't push forward. We get a +1 to the die roll, I believe, for that. +2 to the die roll. That's pretty good. And that'll give us the big push. So I get a 5. That's successful. Now that expends my frontline units, and that counter I'm going to put in the used markers pile here. I'll also be tracking lost units that way. And a German is lost. Or spent. Now I've got a big push. And I've still got a few French units that can be involved in this, so we'll keep going. +1 helps things. 6, we win again. I still haven't taken advantage of this attack. Okay, 1 more attack with the big push going. 6, we win again. Okay. Now if we win once more, we force the Germans out. But we don't have rerolls or anything else. This is chancy. 4, that's a tie. That is a victory. The Germans do not want to let us pass. So they are going to attempt the none shall pass. And we have no permanently eliminated units. We need to get a net of 2 or better to stop the Allies, which we do, but that kills one of the German armies forever and makes the none shall pass harder. That ends this fight because the Allies have no more fresh units. I'm going to keep these big pushes kicking around to grab more easily. Okay. I got to take advantage of my attack here. I'm going to be at -1. This is going to be a trench combat. Now, I'm kind of risking Verdun with this, but I'm hoping that I can build things up. So we go to trench combat. And remember, we don't automatically flip on this, but we're at a -1. Twos. That is a success, I think. Just making sure it's all normal, which means we are not spent, but the trench has been breached. Now, there's too many German units to really attack here. I could stop at this point. It is just a -1 that I had. I'm not going to gain anything from continuing the attack, I don't believe. And I don't think there's a requirement that I go beyond this, which doesn't feel historically accurate. You know, it feels to me like must make an attack into the Rhine applied to the first such attack. Yeah, it doesn't feel to me like this is anything like the damage that Plan 17 did. And if it was successful in breaching the trenches, you would have to keep going. But the simple fact that I could pull so many Allied units off the line from that attack, I violated Plan 17 already. So anyway, we get rid of this card. That's been used. And this can only be used for attacks. So we've done the combat phase, I think. There's no naval combat. I didn't do any of that. Okay. So now production. Well, we have to check the submarine. And there's 2 subs. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. 2 dice for each fresh U-boat. So, first one, 2. Success if Q1 is not active. That's 1 hit from the U-boats. I'm going to have to be counting my penalties here. And the second one, 6 is another success. So I've gotten 2 successes. I couldn't have done any better against the Brits with that. I've got this East Asia squadron. Ooh. Yeah, I needed to do this. I forgot to do this during the during the combat phase. I spend a fleet and I roll a die, and I have to get a 3 or higher to destroy that fleet. I get that, so that's not going to have an effect beyond damaging the British fleet. And there goes a German marker that will not be repeated. So that means I've got 2 hits on the British, and again, because there's no little tracks to handle the production points, I have to kind of do this shit in my head. So the Brits are at 5, and the French are at 4, and that's all I'm worried about right now. I'm going to swap batteries. I'll tell you what I did, but I'm rebuilding the fleet and stuff like that, you know. Okay, so the Allies rebuilt what they could. The Brits rebuilt their fleet, of course, but they also rebuilt what they had here. The French still have, I think, 1 damaged unit somewhere. This guy. And they've got Verdun filled. The Brits built an extra army. They rebuilt their unit in British Africa. I was trying to look for, I thought they couldn't rebuild there, but in the rebuild rules they can. If I saw that somewhere else, I don't know. All right, and that brings us to the technology. We only get 1 tech card. I hope this is, yeah. And what do we get? Royal Air Force created. The Western Allies placed one additional air superiority marker in any area containing at least one land-supplied British or French army. This allows them to roll. Okay, so this is P3. I can't take this one. So that gets shuffled back into the deck. And we got no technology this time. And none of the rest happens. So we're going to be going to the Eastern Allies and US, and I'll put the markers down there for that. Meanwhile, I have to shuffle that deck. Now, the cards here are kind of a lighter quality than maybe would be desirable. Most people use sleeves, I'm sure. I'm not a big fan of sleeves, but with small decks like this and the light quality, I feel like the cards are very likely to get damaged. Shuffling's harder. They're kind of slick, so they slip easily, so they might get folded or something. So I would actually recommend sleeving here if you have any tolerance for that. I'm considering it. It's kind of like Gloomhaven with small decks and kind of flimsy cards. Well, let's remind me of that misery. Okay. For the East, I don't know. We get an event card. Let's see what we get. An Eastern Allied army also gets a frontline unit marker. Okay, I'm not sure what I want to do with the Russians. It's quite possible. See, Galicia is hard to take. The question is what I want to do with this army, whether I want to try to bash into East Prussia. And by the way, attacking from two directions doesn't do you any good in this game. So that whole Russian, cleverness that had to do with their setup, which ended up causing them huge problems, but it could have been very devastating to the Germans. It has no possible upside here. It just has the downside that you're attacking from two different regions. Of course, you do need to defend different regions, so there's some value to that. I don't know if two armies is enough to hold up. There's no real advantage. Like early in the war, there doesn't seem to be an advantage to German armies versus other forces. However, the Germans have a lot of armies on the board, which maybe represents more, total manpower. I'm used to the games having about this number of armies, maybe a little less, at least at the start. But the Germans have, better armies, kind of like the BEF is a better unit early in the war than everyone else's, and therefore they're able to beat them up a little more easily. I'm not seeing something similar to that here, except in sheer numbers. Numbers have different factors, because especially since you can only strategic move 2 units per turn. Yeah, I'm trying to decide if taking Prussia. Taking Prussia would be useful. It limits my supplies, or it limits my exposure. It doesn't increase it. However, I'm a little worried about this big Austrian army being able to come in and do some serious damage to me. Because I only have one army here. Everything's built for Russia? That's interesting. I thought they had a reduced army. When the Turks enter, they will. Okay, and the Austrians are going to have some reduced armies as well. Okay. And that should already be on the map. But it doesn't appear to be. Let's look at this again. The Austrian 10th, which is in Galicia, should be flipped. Well, that's interesting. think I see why it's not flipped. Oh no, the 10th is in Austria here on the Italian border. Okay. Yeah. Hard to read this very quickly. Okay. It's my fault, not the representation. Yeah, I don't know where I want to put that first line unit. You can use it in defense too, which is kind of interesting. Like I could smack the Austrians when they attack. If they attack, they don't have to. I don't know. Like mistakes I made here, I'm going to make this my first line unit. I'm going to put it over here. To attack the Germans in Prussia, see if I can drive them back. Because even if I succeed here, I can draw this unit in as a reinforcement. Okay. And then over here, I had forgotten to flip this over. The German trench is recovered because that attack was not continued. Okay. And I have Serbs. Now, I can't make the Serbs my frontline unit. Do I want Serbs to attack? I don't have a way to get money to the Serbs easily. So until I establish that, I'm not sure I really want to have them on the attack. I think they're better off in the defensive position. And I'm going to launch an attack on Prussia. Am I going to use my frontline units? Yes, I am. So I get a +2 to the die roll. 3 to 5, I have no rerolls. The Russians take a point of damage. They lose this. I'll roll again. This time at even. 2 to 2, that's successful. So we get pipped. The Germans get pipped. We're not going to be able to take this easily, but I do have a big push. And I don't want to give that up, so I'll go in with a +1. 5-4. We succeed again. The push is over because I'm out of units that can attack. Well, the intention with that, though, was that I launch an attack here. So we'll do that at even. And this time we failed. I think we're done with the Russians. So we go to their production, and they make, I believe it's only 4 points. And that's enough to recover all of my armies and nothing more. That's not a good sign. I could, of course, not recover everything, but there's not much value to spent units unless they're the only unit in the line. So like this unit spent may not be too bad, but if I add a spent unit here, it doesn't actually add to the defense significantly. It might add a little bit on the none shall passes. Okay, so that's that. There is not going to be a technological phase that is only for the Western Allies and the Germans. So I don't worry about that. This card was used maybe unwisely. But they may be better on defense. You know, first look at the game where I get to actually play with it and see how it operates. The first time I played it, first of all, playing things opposed, I just don't have as much of an ability to explore to understand what the hell is going on. But also, you know, I would ask questions, and if I was asking something interesting about the game, the guys who were kind of running it as a play test were like, well, they had to look things up and spend a lot of time on that, and it was an expensive process that made it, okay, well, I don't really want to explore the game if we have to do it this way. You know, it was a hard, the rule book as it is hard to find things in at times for such a small set of rules. Anyway, that gets us through the Ruskies, and now we'll be on the Central Allies there. Do I need another break? Confused again. So part of it is Western Allies, Eastern Allies. These should both say Entente on them. Central Allies makes me think it's all part of the same thing. And I didn't move my dice over here to indicate the Central Power non-German stuff. So I kind of lost my place and was wondering, well, wait a minute, didn't I do the Russians already? What's going on here? I really wish they had used the word Entente in these, in terms of the, instead of Western and Eastern Alliance. And if they're not going to do that, then I wish they hadn't used allies in the Central Powers. Allied forces or non-German Central Powers. Okay, well, that said, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my Austrians, because they're all I have. Now, it would be nice to clean Serbia's clock. The chances of doing that are low, but I actually think that an offensive against Serbia will do me more good than trying to push against the Russians over here in the south. So I think that's actually what I'm going to move for. I have not drawn an event card yet, though. Let's see what that does for me, or to me. Skoro works. If A1 technology is not active, place 1 Austria-Hungary heavy artillery in any Austria-Hungary area within it. Army. Okay. So we get, what's that? Oh, that's the Dardanelles artillery, which I guess has to come in through an event. Is it Austrian? It's so hard to see. Yeah. So I'm going to put this in Hungary, and I'm going to move. Can't really risk Bosnia. The Serbians could come streaming through. They'll probably fail. I'm going to move 2 armies down there. What's my production for the Austrians? It's only 3. I have a little combat cheat sheet as part of this. There's so many. There's 4 copies of this, which is useful if you have 4 players, I guess, but not absolutely necessary. And I don't know how valuable these are. So if I attack the Serbs with that artillery, now I'm facing the mountains, which gives a +1 die roll modifier, but the artillery gives me what? An extra die? I don't know. I believe it's an extra die. Yeah, okay. So I will roll here, unfortunately, the gray and white as the Austrians, and a Serb of +1. I can't use the poison gas for this. I would love to. And I miss. That fires my artillery. That would be fired anyway. This is hit. Well, I committed to this southern strategy, so I'm going to keep hitting. I'm beaten again. At this point, I can't win. I'm just really hurting myself, so I'm going to stop fighting. And I get my production, which is 3. I'll spend 1 on a Hungarian, and I'll spend 2 to bring another army into play at Galicia. Galicia is going to be pretty hard to take. How about instead? Yeah, I'm good there. I don't feel like the Serbs are going to be able to hit here. Of course, I could upgrade both my units, but I don't need to do that yet. Okay. And that's it. The heavy artillery gets reset. So that was pretty ineffectual. That brings us to the end of the turn sequence. And we go down here. And Turkey will be entering the war, I believe. I think they don't enter. So this is kind of confusing. I believe that it says they enter on the turn that they get to move, which would make sense, but then it says other things. They automatically join at the start of the Central Allies phase of the winter 1914. That would be all the way at the end of the turn. I'm not sure if they're a neutral country at this point. Oh, by the way, I could have sent money to Russia, but it would have cost me an extra point for the Turks, and I feel like the Brits and French really need their money right now. So trying to bank a few extra bucks into Russia probably isn't that wise a move. Okay, I guess we push to another turn, and we'll be hitting the German turn. I got to think a little bit about what the Germans want to do. It's not likely that I'm going to be able to break in through here. And this is the problem with not having focused more heavily on that northern push, is that, I don't know. I've got I'd have to hit it 5 times to even have a chance of succeeding. Now, right now, for some reason, yeah, these got beat up. I've got 2 spent units. I could only get 2 units max there. I have no way of breaking through there. I might be able to break through in Verdun, however, because that's been stripped a little weaker. So I got to think about that, and I also have to think about over here, where the Germans have been weakened. Gaining Poland wouldn't hurt me, although it does weaken the coverage. If Prussia falls, then Posen is exposed, and that's kind of dangerous. So you got to keep things like that in mind. I'm not sure. Not sure which way I want to go. The British fleet is still strong. I don't feel like I've gotten a good opportunity there. At some point or another, I'm going to have to challenge it, though. And I don't know what else to do. The real answer is I need to see what the event is. I get my first line formations. That'll give me a +2. And I could deploy a trench at no cost, even in 1914. Now, a trench could do a lot to protecting this, but a +2 could get me a lot towards getting Verdun. This is an iffy call of which way I want to go. I would really like to be next to Paris. Thus, taking Verdun would put me in a much better position. It would make the Somme harder to defend, just like Verdun is harder to defend more historically. However, taking one production away may not be worth the advantages that I get out of dropping a trench early. A trench is a permanent addition. On the other hand, taking away a production every turn is a permanent addition of a sort to what I have. It's not guaranteed. It's not at all guaranteed. I wouldn't get the big push right away, so I'd have no other advantages going in there. There's a lot of units, a lot of thinking to go on here. Decided I'm going to try to punch through here. I'm going to leave these where they are, and I'm going to use one army with that +2. And that'll be against the French trench. Okay, we get a success. That breaches the trench. The front line units is gone, however. And one of these Germans is depleted. Is not depleted, because it was a successful attack on a trench. Okay, now I'm at even though, which kind of sucks, but I really want Verdun. That's a failure. I don't know if we're definitely gonna step away a little bit at some point. Okay, we get a success this time. That gets me the big push, if I can find it. I had it before, there it is. Now we're at +1. Oh. And I'm going to cut out and finish this battle up. Come back, report on it. I stopped there because I only had 2 units that were fully functional left. There was a wounded unit beneath that. I have no chance of taking Verdun with only 2 units. So we unbreach the trench there. I think I want to attack Poland. I'm not sure this is wise, but whatever. This is gone. Poland doesn't get a die. It has an automatic 2, I believe, because it's a garrison. We've succeeded. That unit has to go in. I'll bring this one in to give me some defensive flexibility. It might make sense to leave a unit back here because losing Poland wouldn't really matter to me. And just make it a little harder in case Prussia falls. Because the Russians really do not want to be here. On the other hand, I don't think they have enough oomph to get through. As I scorn them and take a risk. We go to production phase. Blockade box, still held by the Brits. Not getting anywhere with that. Events. Fuck, I forgot my poison gas. I could have used poison gas here to improve things. Son of a bitch, and I had to use it this round because I'm going to lose it. And this is going to be a constant problem because most of the cards don't work that way. That actually would have succeeded in the big push attack, but I would have done it on the one before. So, like, this would have made the difference on the one that already had the big push, but I would have done it to help generate the big push. So we're going to say that this is gone, and this says discard to the technology deck. Ooh. Shit. I got to look this up because this looks like it just, oh no, it gets discarded to the technology deck no matter what, I think. Whether you use the ability or not. You just get the ability once. Because otherwise you wouldn't get poison gas each time. But that's not gone yet. That's not in the deck yet. So you don't get poison gas 2 turns in a row ever. Which I don't know if that's good or bad. Okay. And where are we? Points, I'm down to 12 now. I no longer have that bonus Belgian points, and we'll pretty much be rebuilding the German army. However, I forgot I have to do the damn U-boats. I haven't rolled that up yet. And we gotta find that. This U-boat attrition. During the German production phase, we roll this. And this is for each U-boat in the game. For each fresh U-boat in the game, not for each. So first one, 10, no effect, U-boat remains fresh. Second one, 8, Q2 is not active. So we get to keep our U-boats out there. And I got 12 bucks to build up my armies, basically. Von Letow up down here, he would have attacked on a 5 or 6. He's just going to do the guerrilla attack. 5 or 6, he would have done damage. That damage is pretty minor because the Brits can recover it each time as long as they can. Now that the Brits are not damaged, though, they could actually launch an attack and maybe start pushing von Letow down. I don't know what the retreat rules signify. I guess it's the fact that, so it's not specified who owns any of this stuff, and you'll be allowed to retreat into Portuguese East Africa or Rhodesia, which is English controlled. But those aren't, that ownership isn't specified at all. This is all essentially German controlled as far as the game's concerned, I guess. I don't know. Okay. And we rebuilt all our forces, and then put a backup unit here just in case things go horribly wrong. I don't know if that actually helps any, but more important is the Hanover unit, because I would not want forces to stream to get through Belgium, and there is a fair number of Allied force there that could push through. This doesn't connect to anything. The borders have to actually be real borders. So, yeah. And we draw our tech card. After discarding, well, we discard the poison gas after we draw this. Synchronized machine guns. This is P2. P2 can't be done, so this goes into the garbage. Over quickly. The red pants. 1 mandatory French attack this turn with a -1 DRM. Well, we're going to want to make an attack. I think, because we're going to want to try to take Belgium back, I am going to throw an extra French unit into here to deal with that. And, oh, how about a British unit too? They're allowed to transit 1 by sea. And let's do our fights. First in East Africa, we're gonna attack. I don't believe von Letow, in the right order here. I don't believe von Letow gives us any special bonuses on defense. And so we'll do that first. The Allies fail, however. And I mean, they were going to fail. It's just whether or not they get the edge and then can start chasing him. Over here, we're going to make an attack. We're going to do the French attack first, I guess. At -1 against the Charmans. 2 to 3, the French lose. We'll use a Brit this time. It's another failure. The red pants are done. I'll use another Brit. We lose again. It's getting to the point where it might not be worth fighting. I got 3. If I get lucky, I can still go, so I'll send the French in once more. Seeing some attrition effect here. Aha! They win this time. That means we have a big push. So now we're at +1. 5, another success. That keeps the big push going. And now, do the Germans lose Belgium? 2, that's another success. All right, that forces a retreat. Germans don't want to let that happen, but they have a -1 to the die roll now. 3, they manage to hold, but they lose another unit permanently. At this point, the Allied force is spent, so it's not going to be able to keep pushing, but at least Belgium was held. Is that important? I don't know. How important was Belgium? Was it worth stopping them? The first time it was a production point. This time maybe it wasn't so important. But I really hate the idea of having, Germany exposed like that. Okay. I think that's all the Western Allied forces, which means we go down to the production. And the first thing we do is the U-boat attacks. We got 2. One success. The second is not a success because it wasn't unrestricted warfare. So the Brits are down 1. Now the Brits get a total of... Wow, we haven't done any damage. This isn't good. They get a total of 7. That means down 1 is 6. Concentrate on packing an extra unit into Verdun. They do replace one of these points, and the Brits replace both of theirs. Build that up, and build up there. That puts us to our tech. Let's see what we get. We get poison gas. Let's see if we can remember to use it. Okay. That puts us to Eastern Allies. And I hope I've been pulling enough event cards. I'm going to do a quick count, make sure I did, but it could happen that I end up fucking that up very easily, especially as we get later in the game and more cards are there. We got the right number now. The Russian Steamroller. EA production phase, raise new unit step. Place a spent Russian army in Petrograd and Moscow areas at no cost. Okay, well, that sounds cool. Okay. But now we have to figure out what we're going to do with the Russian armies. And we got out of this better than the historical. Question is, what the hell can we do? And I think the answer is we want to keep attacking Prussia, maybe? Or do we want to just hold off? Well, with those extra armies coming in, holding off may not be the best of moves. See if we could get Prussia, and the trenches are going to start soon. So we're going to make our attacks. Here come the Russians. Okay, we're not moving anything. We're pretty comfortable with what we're holding here. So let's try one attack. And if it doesn't look like it's going well, we might stop. But we get an immediate success, which gives us a big push. And now we're going to regret those defenses on Belgium, I bet, because this could fall very easily. Again at Prussia, this time at +1. 5s, we win. And now we hit again at +1. And we win again. Now, do the Germans want to sacrifice another unit? No. We're going to let the Russians in. And that's this unit. It was the 3rd unit. We'll bring this in with us. And Russia's feeling pretty damn good. Serbians still aren't going to do anything. We get our production, which opens up two of these. What do I have? 4 points of production for Russia, which I can take as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember, these guys are going to have to strategic move to get into play, which means I don't have as much access to shift things around. I kind of like the way the movement works in this, that you're not moving all your units. You're not trying to do any kind of fancy stuff like that. It's really hard to shift your front. I think that's appropriate, actually, but some other games allow you a little bit too much flexibility in movement, I think, across the board across the whole board. Notably the SPI game, which is on about the same level as this. This gives a little bit more detail. That means this car is gone, and it's time for Turkey to enter the war. So I deployed the units, Brits down here, Turks here, or Russians there. The Turks were already correctly on the board. I also did some movement, which I shouldn't have done yet because I should be drawing this. First line formation, +2 in any combat on a Central Allies army. This is interesting. I could use this for the Turks. Okay. So, I set my Austrians up here because I want to take this. I like the idea of threatening the Russians. It's not going to be easy, though. I think taking Serbia out is more important. So I'm going to put the first line over here. Basically, I swapped a damaged unit into Galicia and a fresh one into here. Yeah, I can't afford more than that. For the Turks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this guy out of Ezrum down to Gallipoli to defend that and swap the army into play. First line card, I can leave that there just to remind me what it does. All right, we're going to make the attack on the Serbs here. First line gives +2 to combat, and we'll take an extra die against the Serbs. The Serbs have +1, but +2 is better than +1. And we managed to beat them. Okay, that gets us a big push. Going into Serbia. Let's do it the right way. We attack again. Now we're still facing +1 unit, but we're at +1 for the push. That helps a little bit, but not enough. Which means we took another hit. We could try again. I want to do that because I really do want to take Serbia out. I'm trying so much effort on it, but now I'm at a disadvantage, and I'm screwed. And now I stop. And I'm a little overly aggressive. Now, then over here, the Turks are going to do the same damn thing, attacking Russians who are at +1. Now, the Russians are already weakened, which means if I hit them, I force them back, maybe. And I do hit them. I don't really like giving up the space, but I think I'm going to be burning through Russian units in more important areas. Here, I can give up the Caucasus, and then there's a lot of nothing going on for a long ways. So I'm willing to do that. Now this left Baghdad open. The Brits are going to be able to take that fairly easily. These guys are not going to be able to go into Jerusalem. Frontline formation got used. And what else are we at? I guess we're at production over here. And let me just see what we got here. Austria's got 3, Turkey's got 1. Turkey's won. Now, the big question is, do I protect against a Gallipoli invasion? Which looks awfully dangerous. Or do I, speed this up? I'm going to build up against the Gallipoli invasion. I do not want that to happen. And I can always do that swap again that I did this last turn with my except that I kind of cheated. I moved 2 units for each nation, which is not at all allowed. I'm going to let that sit, but I got to be careful about that. The Austrians get 3. We're going to keep charging up against the Serbs. I mean, they're beginning to get weakened, so eventually they're going to die, right? Assuming the Russians don't make it into Galicia, which I don't think is going to be an easy task for them. And why are these Germans so beat up? Because they came from Prussia. Okay. Yeah, that's painful. All right. And I think that's the end of the year. I do believe so. Which means we'll be going into spring. Now, spring's a little weird. Officially, what happens is the event cards get reshuffled at the beginning of each player turn, but there's no reason to do that. I'm going to shuffle all the decks as they are. But before I do that, I'm going to send this one up. A little bit of babbling first. What you can see so far is that this is a fairly nice, clean system. I have to do a lot of lookups as to, hey, what's happening at this phase or whatever. But I feel like this is kind of on the lines of a no retreat type game where the mechanisms aren't really familiar. There may be some special cases you have to look up, but the base strategizing in the game is actually fairly simple. You've got this kind of push your luck mechanism going. You set up an attack and it may or may not look good. It reminds me a little of Risk and Axis and Allies and stuff like that, except that this is creating more believable, results than those games do for any era that those games might be assumed to be portraying. And it's pleasing me at the level that it's at. It's not trying to be too much. It's giving you some historical flavor that a simpler design wouldn't give, but without really costing the ease of play element. The only part that's difficult about it is you do have to, look up a few little special cases and such. There might be enough information here on the player aids, but they're presented in kind of a busy fashion, and it's hard for me to internalize all the information on them, especially since they got counters on them. I can't just pick it up and read it. Of course, I have extra copies for the 4 players. But anyway, that's kind of, so far so good, really. It's doing its job.